as we continue our coverage of the Urban Meyer situation in Columbus. The Ohio State coach has released a statement now within the last hour talking about the situation there. Let's get Urban Meyer's words talking about whether or not he had been truthful with the media last week. This is a few paragraphs into the statement. Meyer gave a little bit of background, talked about having a heavy heart, and then said, quote, "Here is the truth. While at the University of Florida and now at the Ohio State University, I have always followed proper reporting protocols and procedures when I've learned of an incident involving a student-athlete, coach, or member of our staff by elevating the issues to the proper channels. And I did so regarding the Zach Smith incident in 2015. I take that responsibility very seriously, and any suggestion to the contrary is simply false. The power of what I say and how I say it, especially sensitive and serious domestic issues, has never been more evident than now. My words, whether in a reply to a reporter's question or in addressing a personnel issue, must be clear, compassionate, and most of all, completely accurate. Unfortunately, at Big Ten Media Days on July 24th, I failed on many of these fronts. My intention was not to say anything inaccurate or misleading. However, I was not adequately prepared to discuss these sensitive personnel issues with the media, and I apologize for the way I handled those questions. I understand there are more questions to be answered, and I look forward to doing just that with the independent investigators retained by the university, and I will cooperate fully with them. At the appropriate time, I will also address the questions and speculation in a public forum, but for now, out of respect for the ongoing inquiry, I will refrain at this time." Meyer concluded his statement by asking Buckeye fans to support the coaches and players in the program and then said, quote, "I look forward to rejoining them soon."
You are listening to the Technical Foul Podcast for Monday, August 6, 2018. I am your host, Manny Fresh. That audio was courtesy of BTN, Big Ten Network, of course, and BTN.com. That was Dave Revzine reading over Urban Meyer's bullshit statement, if I have to give my candid opinions on it. Hope everybody's doing good, man. I'm doing great. I hope everybody's staying cool across the country. It is hot out there. Hope everybody's enjoying their summer. It's almost over, y'all. It's almost over. I hate to say it. I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but summer's almost over. Like, once you know, it's like August is like, it's like Sunday after a long weekend, and you got to go back to work on Monday. It's like you could kind of see the sands in the hourglass just slowly trickling away. Cause like once you hit September, you maybe depending on where you live, you know, in some years you get an Indian summer, but you got maybe a couple weeks, 2-3 weeks tops. And then the weather starts changing on you. You know, so it's almost here, man. Winter, fall, and I like the fall though. That's my favorite season, so I'm not too mad about it. But summer's almost over, man. So I hope you guys have gone out there, enjoyed it. Hopefully you guys are getting outside and enjoying the weather. I know it's hot in some places, but still enjoy it. It beats being snowed in or washed out, you know, if you live in the Pacific Northwest like I do. So yeah, man, I hope you guys are enjoying your summer. Anyway, man, I mean, I guess, not to bury the lead, but, I guess you guys know what I'm going to start with this week on the podcast. The whole Urban Meyer situation, don't need to kind of recap it. You guys know, if you guys have, you couldn't have lived under a rock last week and not known about that damn story. It probably was the biggest news in sports last week. The whole Urban Meyer situation and the ramifications of it. Obviously, Ohio State had put, Urban Meyer on an administrative paid leave. And he released that statement, Friday afternoonish, late afternoon. I think he released it on Twitter. And, and then of course, Ohio State comes out yesterday and that they've hired an independent, investigator to investigate the Urban Meyer situation Zach Smith and Courtney Smith and basically investigate the whole thing. And what was Urban Meyer's role? What did he know? What did he report? Was everything properly reported to the officials, and et cetera, et cetera. So here we are with this investigation. And I think I'm going to start with kind of debunking some of the things that I've heard out there. First of all, because obviously, like anything, there's two sides to everything. There's people that are going to be against, that are in favor of Urban Meyer losing his job, and they think that Urban Meyer is this monster, monstrous individual that basically committed the crimes. And then there's other school of thought, and and I'm actually surprised that there's quite a few people that are actually defending Urban Meyer. Places that I've seen, that I've read, that, Urban Meyer's kind of getting a raw deal here, blah, 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 yada, yada. Let me debunk some things first. Number one, nobody is accusing Urban Meyer of beating his wife, of being involved in the actual assault of this woman. Obviously, anybody with a brain knows that Urban Meyer didn't do any of the crimes that we're talking about here. Zach Smith is the animal. Zach Smith is the punk ass dude that put his hands on his wife. We all know that. We all know that he's an idiot. We all know that he's a thug. We all know that he's a fucking jackass and a coward for putting his hands on his wife. We all know that. Anybody with a brain, anybody with common sense knows that. So no one is blaming Urban Meyer for that. Okay? And the other thing that I keep hearing is that, why is Urban Meyer getting blamed here? What's the why is this an issue? First of all, this is an issue. Number one, Urban Meyer's in trouble right now for really three main things. Number one, he knew about the 2009 incident. Okay? He knew about the 2009 incident. He knew that he put his hands on his wife back in 2009. And I know some people will say, well, 2009 to now, it's almost a decade. Times have changed. Society has changed in that time. There's been less of an acceptance on this kind of behavior. Got it. He knew about the 2009 incident. He also knew about the 2015 incident. And I know that that's, he basically admitted that he knew about the 2015 incident. See, first he lied about it. And that's one of the reasons that he's in trouble right now. He lied on media day. When the reports came out, or the threat of the reports coming out, Zach Smith was fired. He was asked about it on media day. He basically was dismissive of Brett McMurphy, dismissive of the entire media, said, I don't know what you're talking about, and you guys basically make up things, and yada, yada. I'm paraphrasing. But he basically dismissed it, said, I don't know anything of it. Number one, you lied. When pressured, you lied. When all you had to do was answer the question, you lied. That's the first mistake. Number two, he knew about the 2009 incident, and he knew about the 2015 incident. And this guy is still employed? You didn't fire him? Now, what Urban says is, well, I reported it to my superiors. I told Gene Smith. I told everybody that was involved. I reported it. That will be determined hopefully at a later date once this investigation is concluded. We shall see. But he said that I reported it. I did everything that was in my power legally. Legally is the key word. I did what was right. I reported it. Urban, you didn't get rid of this dude until 3 years after the fact. And the only reason you got rid of him is because the heat was on. Because Brett McMurphy was coming out with this story. And he had text messages. And Courtney Brown basically exposed y'all as having deep knowledge of the situation. Did I say Shelley Brown? Courtney Brown. Courtney Brown exposed y'all. So let me get this straight. You know about the 2009 incident. You know about the 2015 incident, and you don't fire the guy? That's the biggest issue that I have with all of this. After all of that, you don't fire the guy? And I get it. He's Earl Bruce's grandson. You know, Meyer and Bruce are close. You know, he looked at Earl Bruce as a mentor, gave him an opportunity, got him his start in coaching, and he feels like he owes Earl Bruce, blah, blah, blah. And he hired the kid as a favor to Earl Bruce, his legendary friend, blah, blah. I get all that. I get all that. And let me put this out there. I don't think that Urban Meyer was trying to be malicious or trying to be evil here. I don't think that. And I have my issues with Urban Meyer that I'll get to in a second. But I don't think Urban Meyer was trying to be a bad guy here. I think he genuinely, from everything you read and you investigate, the Meyer family was close to Zach Smith and his wife. They were close. Urban Meyer's wife, Shelley, and Courtney Brown were very close. And I think that they were genuinely trying to help this couple. Urban Meyer himself stated that after the 2009 incident, they tried to counsel Zach Smith. They tried to talk to him. They tried to, get that couple back on track. They had, to try to get them to work there. Cause everybody, Urban Meyer fancies himself, basically, the second coming of Jesus. So, he tried to counsel them and, get them back on the right track and help that family out. There was kids involved. So I think Urban Meyer had good intentions, but his actions were terrible. Like, I can forgive the 2009 incident. You know what? It happened, blah, blah, blah. I'm not happy about it, but you know what? We're going to counsel this guy. We're going to work with him. We know the family. We're close to him, blah, 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 blah. Once the 2015 incident happens and there's an arrest and there's a police report and the law gets involved and there's issues there now there's just two incidents at two different locations. Because that's the thing. The 2009 incident happened in Florida. At Florida. We all know Urban Meyer moves on to Ohio State. He brings Zach Smith along with him. And this incident now happens at another institution at Ohio State. After that 2015 incident happens, you've got to fire Zach Smith. He can no longer coach on your staff. Bottom line, I don't care who's his granddaddy. I don't give a shit if Earl Bruce basically gave you his left lung. He cannot coach on your staff. And guess what? Zach Smith was still employed by Ohio State University. Until 2 weeks ago. Still had a job. Still was a part of that staff. Why? Urban Meyer's got to answer that question. Why? And I don't want to hear, I was trying to help. No. We gave you a mulligan with the 2009 one. You don't get two mulligans. So he lied on media day. Lied. And then the biggest question that I have is 2015 incident happens. How is this man still employed? How is this man still a part of your staff? Oh, he fired him 2 weeks ago. Well, why did you fire him 2 weeks ago? So you can fire him 2 weeks ago, but you didn't fire him in 2015 when this all came out. Why? Why? Because he wanted to cover it up. Because he didn't want that to be a distraction on his football team. Remember, this is 2015. 2015. Ohio State was about to win a national championship in 2015. And nothing could get in the way of that. Nothing. Look, this story has so many different layers to it. It just does. It just does. But that's the two biggest issues that I have with Urban Meyer. First, he lied to the media. And people say, well, you know what? What is he supposed to say? The truth. The truth. He was actually direct question. A direct question. This wasn't a question about football schematics. This wasn't a question about Michigan's defense. This was a question about, did you have knowledge of Zach Smith's incidents in 2009 and 2015? And if so, why was he still a member of the coaching staff 3 years in? Answer the question, Urban. Answer the question. That's where I have a problem. And then the guy still has a job 3 years after the fact. And you can make the case that he doesn't get fired if this report never comes out. He's probably still on the staff. That is the issue, folks. That is the issue. And in today's society, in 2018 America, you can't tolerate that. You can't turn a blind eye to these things. Whether you agree with that, whether you don't agree with that, whether you think that this is overly, whatever, that's a separate discussion. Facts are the facts. In 2018 America, that's not gonna fly. It's not gonna fly. And the idea that Urban Meyer, well, I did everything that I was supposed to do. Because that's what basically I read out of that statement. Urban Meyer basically said is, hey, I didn't do anything wrong. I didn't do anything wrong. I let my superiors know. They didn't do anything about it. What do you want me to do? Urban, I'm not trying to hear that. I'm not trying to hear that, Urban. First of all, Urban Meyer makes $7 million a year. Urban Meyer is bigger than anybody in that institution right now. Bigger. You can make the case he's probably the most powerful man in that state. Maybe outside of John Kasich, the governor of Ohio. He's probably the biggest man in that state. Urban Meyer makes $7 million a year. He's a god there. 73-8 is his record at Ohio State. He's won 90% of his games. A god. You mean to tell me you couldn't have done more? And again, nobody, and the things I heard, oh, well, who would have, he's friends with the guy, who's going to get into a friend's marriage, and da-da-da. Nobody's asking him to do all that. Nobody's asking him to do all these extra things. The things that are in question are, what did you know? And if you did know, why didn't you follow proper protocols, raise awareness about it, move it up the chain, and fire Zach Smith? Fire Zach Smith. That is the $7 million question right there. Why wasn't something further done about this? And why was Zach Smith still employed by the university and a part of your coaching staff until 2 weeks ago? Why? That is in essence the investigation. There's nothing else to answer. I don't get into, well, he should have did this, and why didn't he, Urban should have called the cops, and, you guys want, no, nobody's arguing all that. Nobody is arguing that. At least I'm not. And this idea that Urban Meyer is, that, oh, well, he did what he was supposed to do. Again, he is the biggest man in that state. Arguably. See, these coaches, they kill me. And I've gotten into this rant before. These coaches kill me. These coaches want all the power, all the money, the stature, the respect, the reverence, everything that comes along with winning national championships, having a great record, making the money that they do. They want all of those things. But when it's time to be a leader, when it's time to do the right thing, when it's time to stand up and go by those quote unquote moral values that you so-called stand for, that you say that you stand for, wait. What do you want me to do? I didn't know. I have no knowledge. I didn't know. Well, yeah. Well, I did what I was supposed to do. I did the bare minimum. No. These coaches kill me. They want all the power, all the glory, all the fame, all the money, everything that comes with that. But they don't want to be accountable when there's a lack of leadership, when their program's in trouble, when their program, the program that they oversee, that they're responsible for, has an issue. They don't want to take accountability. Isn't it interesting how that always is? Rick Pitino, all the money, make millions of dollars coaching Louisville. Millions of dollars. The court named after him, wins a national champion, a god there. There's a fucking whorehouse being ran in a building that's named after his deceased brother-in-law. Oh, what? I didn't know. Well, what do you want me to do? You can't blame me. I didn't do anything. I didn't know. I don't know. That doesn't fly. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. That doesn't fly. These coaches kill me with that. They kill me with that. And we all know why. Because these coaches are all phony to a certain extent. Urban Meyer's the biggest phony. I've always said this. Urban Meyer's the biggest phony in college sports. Urban Meyer walks around with his head held high, Mr. Holier than thou, Mr. Christian values, me and my wife, we're big into religion and God and doing God's work. This is the same guy that was a head coach at Florida when they had 31 arrests during his tenure at Florida. 31. 31. And they weren't minor arrests and weren't little misdemeanors. These were crimes. Crimes. Criminal activity. And I ain't even bring up Aaron Hernandez. Oh, by the way, Aaron Hernandez. Everyone at that Florida program knew Aaron Hernandez had issues. Every single person, including Urban Meyer, self-admitted, knew of the issues that Aaron Hernandez had. Now, I'm not saying that they knew that Aaron Hernandez was going to go out there and murder 2 people, but they knew that this kid had issues. When Aaron Hernandez slipped in the draft, to I believe the 3rd round, who did Belichick call? His good friend Urban Myers. Urban Meyer. So Urban Meyer knew. Urban Meyer knew that these issues were there. Cam Newton got in trouble. Who do you think was the coach at Florida? Urban Meyer. Urban Meyer. This is the same guy that had quote unquote heart issues. I need to resign from my Florida post and go spend time with my family. And then 3 weeks later, he takes a job at ESPN. Why? Because he saw the Avalanche named Nick Saban coming. And he was like, fuck that. I'm not competing with this guy. It's bad enough that I got to compete with LSU. Now Alabama and Nick Saban? He wanted no smoke with that. So what does he do? He resigns. I'm having some heart issues. Oh, I need to spend more time with my family. ESPN. Hey, here's a check. Come do some games. Come do some analysis. Oh yeah, sure. It's amazing how quick that was. It's amazing. So Urban Meyer's been a phony. But all these coaches are, to a certain extent, are phonies. All they care about. See, they may preach that they're about morals and values and teaching kids and being leaders and leaders of men. They preach all of that. But when it comes down to it, all they care about is winning games and making money. And the fame and the power and the stature associated with that. That's all they care about. All these coaches want to do is win football games or win basketball games, run their practices. That's all they care about. They could care less about this shit. They could care less. Oh, what? I got to deal with this bullshit. Who gives a fuck if he got tattoos? Who cares if he sodomized a girl? Who gives a crap? I just want to beat Bowling Green on Saturday. I just want to beat Michigan. I just want to beat Wisconsin. I could care less about this moral shit. But the problem is they all preach moral values and being leaders of men and all that until it's time to, put those values to a test. And then all of a sudden it's humada, I didn't know. Oh, what do you want me to do? I'm just a coach. Then it's that. And that's what drives me insane, because you can't have it both ways. You can't have the power and the stature and everything that comes along with that and then not have accountability when things don't go. See, it's easy to have accountability when everything goes great. If Ohio State was this sterling program that was never in trouble, that never had issues, that did everything the right way, Urban Meyer would be one of the first guys patting himself on the back. First guy. Him and every other big time coach. We do things right here. To the letter of the law. We go above and beyond. Leader of men. They're the first ones patting themselves on the back. And then when something goes wrong, of course, hey, what do you want me to do? I didn't know. Can't have it both ways. You can't have it both ways. And it's interesting. I don't know how this thing is going to play out because it's, like I said, it's so layered. I don't know how this is going to play out. And the other thing that you can't forget here, Ohio State is facing issues of their own. Ohio State's got a major lawsuit right now going back to this physician that was on the wrestling team that, basically assaulted. I don't know if it was the wrestling team or the swimming team. My bad if I didn't research that correctly, but, I think it's going back to the 80s with this physician, being involved in harassment and assault on countless of athletes in that program. So they've got, and also issues with the swimming team. I may be mixing them up the two, but basically Ohio State's got issues right now. And they're facing I believe several lawsuits. And don't think that didn't come into play with this decision here with Urban Meyer. Don't think it didn't. This is the last thing that Ohio State wanted to face. They wanted nothing to do with this shit. Like, really? Now Urban? Come on. Really? Urban Meyer? The God? Mr. 7-3-8? Mr. Christ and God and family values? Urban Meyer? Potentially? Allegedly covered up a domestic assault within his own staff? They didn't want to deal with this. But the seat is hot. The streets is watching. Lawsuits up the ass. They feel like they have to act. And I don't know how this is going to play out. I'm 50-50 on it, really. Like, some days, if you ask me tomorrow, I think he's going to keep his job. You ask me the next day, I think he's going to get fired. I think it could go either way right now. I think it could go either way right now. Urban Meyer's big enough, and he has enough plausible deniability to say, well, you know what? I did enough legally that he may survive, but the winds of change are out there. And that storm is out there brewing, dropping everything it has. And in this climate and in this culture and in this country and this year, at this time frame, I don't even know if Urban Meyer survives this. But I think it's 50-50. I don't think it's a clear-cut deal one way or another. Oh, he's definitely keeping his job. Oh, he's definitely getting, I don't think it's that definite one way or another. We'll see what happens with this investigation. Ohio State came out yesterday and said that they should have a resolution to this within 14 days. So 2 weeks, we'll see. But it's going to be very interesting. It's going to be very, very, very interesting what they do. And I thought about this all weekend. Like, if Urban Meyer does go, he basically lost his job for an unimportant, middling fucking positions coach, a wide receivers coach. That's the crazy thing about it. And I know that there's a relationship there and they go back and the families go back. I get that. But think about it. Urban Meyer might get fired for basically protecting a wide receivers coach. A wide receivers coach. It's not like he's protecting his offensive coordinator, who's a hot name and a hot commodity, big name, or his defensive coordinator, hot name, hot commodity. A wide receivers coach. Urban Meyer could get a wide receivers coach anywhere he wants. Anywhere in the country. Matter of fact, I could be his wide receivers coach. I don't think that job is that. I may be wrong, but I don't think that job requires a lot of, knowledge on anything, really. It's not rocket science. Let's just put it that way. So this man is basically going to lose his job for a low-level underling in the grand scheme of things. Now, I think he'll get a job in this. Now, I think let's say he's fired. I don't believe he'll get another coaching job in college because I just think that in college with the culture and the way things are right now, I think it's hard for a university to bring in Urban Meyer. Maybe, well, I could be wrong. I don't think it'll be right away. I think he would have to at least take 2-3 years off. And at his age, who knows if he wants to do that? But I strongly believe that if he's fired, I don't think he gets another college coaching job again. I don't believe it. Maybe a program's that desperate and to get a big name like Urban Meyer, maybe they'll do it. But I really believe I don't think he gets another coaching job in college. Now, there's always been whispers that Urban Meyer may want to pursue a gig in the NFL. He's got a lot of NFL contacts, a lot of respect within the NFL. So there might be a fit there if he is let go by Ohio State. I've never felt like I've never looked at Urban Meyer as a big time NFL coaching prospect. I don't know if his offense and his coaching style would translate into the NFL. I don't buy that. Like, some guys are just college coaches. Like, I think it's easier to make the transition from the pros to college than it is from college to the pros. I've always felt that. And I know that that's changed recently in the last few years. Jim Harbaugh's had success, Pete Carroll, but they were NFL guys. They were more NFL guys than anything else. Pete Carroll got to start in the NFL. Jim Harbaugh obviously played in the NFL. His father coached in the NFL. He had NFL roots. So those are a little different. I don't count those. Those are a little bit misleading. But Urban Meyer is a college coach to me. I don't know. I've never bought this idea that Urban Meyer would be a big time NFL coach. I've never bought that. But I don't think he gets another college job. I do think he gets an NFL job if he wants it. And I think he might face some backlash in the NFL, but the NFL's never been afraid of backlash. They've never been afraid of facing some heat for shit that they want to do. We all know that. So I don't think he gets another coaching job. And we can get into who replaces him if he is fired. And maybe we're getting ahead of ourselves because, by this time next week, all this will be for nothing and he kept his job. But if you had to put a gun to my head right now, at this very moment, I think, I don't know how you bring him back. I don't know how you bring him back because you put him on administrative leave. Everything everything has come out from this. Who knows what else comes out from this investigation? If nothing, maybe nothing comes out. But let's say something does reveal something, something else comes out or more things come out that aren't exactly favorable of Urban Meyer. And again, those questions can't be answered. Those are big questions to me. Like, why did this guy still have a job 3 years after a second incident of domestic violence was reported? Or I think it was violation of a probation and, supposedly that he had the kids and he dropped the kids off at her apartment and he had a restraining order there and the cops were involved. Basically another incident 3 years after the fact. This guy still has a job. Urban Meyer has to explain that. He has to explain that. Without doubt, he has to explain that. Those questions have to be answered. And then he lied to me today. And I know people are poo-pooing that. Oh, well, what did you expect him to do? Tell the truth. He lied on media day, said he didn't know anything, which he himself admitted that it was incorrect. And I think he did that because he knew the idea that we were supposed to believe that his wife, Shelley, knew of the assaults and the beatings and everything that was going on in that relationship. And he didn't know. It's bullshit. It's bullshit. And it was never going to fly in the court of public opinion. It was never going to fly. For my married people out there. I'm not going to speak for every married couple, but I'm pretty confident that I can make this claim. I'm married and me and my wife have mutual friends, meaning friends that both of us are friends with. There's no way that there's going to be a domestic violence issue going on in a relationship with two people that we both know and have a relationship with. And my wife's not going to tell me about it. She's not going to mention it. Now, she may not go into details. She may not show me pictures per se, or who knows? Maybe my wife will show me everything and tell me everything. But there's no way that a wife is going to keep that from her husband. Especially with a couple that they both have a relationship with. No way. There's just no, you expect me to believe? There's no way in hell. I'm not buying it. And Urban Meyer and his people and his agents, they know that. They're not stupid. They know that was never going to fly. That was never going to fly. So this statement that was released on Friday was more to just debunk that than anything else. And I'm surprised that a lot of people were defending Urban Meyer. And there's people, there's radio shows. I know Mad Dog was pretty staunch about defending Urban Meyer. Now, some of the reasons that he used was just completely stupid. The thing with the contract where his contract, he's required to, make a report to superiors and I believe the Title IX office. And that's one of the things that's in question right now, whether he reported it to Title IX. Oh, well, a lot of people don't read their contracts. I don't want to hear that bullshit that they don't read their contracts. These guys have when you're getting when you're signing a contract worth the amount of money that Urban Meyer's getting, trust me, he's got lawyers, he's got agents, paralegals, they read over the contracts. Now, maybe Urban Meyer didn't know, but I guarantee you his agent knew. His lawyer knew. Guarantee it. When millions and millions of dollars are involved in these contracts, trust me, you know. You know every single angle of that contract. I have friends that play professional sports, and they've told me, we may not read the contracts ourselves, but trust me, we have legal teams, we have agents that are in charge of reading over every piece of wording, lettering, ink, anything that there is to read on those contracts. We have people that do that and inform us anything and everything about it. So I didn't read my contracts over, that's not going to fly either. And again, nobody is accusing Urban Meyer of doing anything, of committing these crimes. We all know who the villain is here. The question is, was Urban Meyer a co-conspirator? And as we all know, since the beginning of time, a lot of times the conspiracy, the cover-up, is worse than the actual crime. It's worse than the actual crime. You're almost better off coming out in the open admitting to the crime than trying to cover it up, because it just makes things worse. Makes things worse. Anyway, enough with Urban Meyer. I mean, again, it's a fascinating story because, I mean, obviously these controversies. I mean, this is probably the biggest coaching. Well, no, the Art Briles and Baylor thing was pretty big. That was pretty big, but it was Baylor. So, it wasn't as big as this is. This is big. This is big. This is Urban Meyer, one of the 10, 15 greatest college coaches of all time. The second best college coach without debate in college football right now. Coaching at The Ohio State University, one of the top 5 programs in college sports, right? In college football, without debate. And you have domestic assault in this climate, in this culture, in this society. This is a big deal. This is a very, very big deal. And sometimes I've been wrong about this stuff because I could have sworn to you a few months ago that Izzo and D'Antonio were going to be both gone. I was like, there's no way D'Antonio with that Michigan State shit coming. And they still may be gone. I mean, there's still stuff going on with that investigation and things going on there, but they've managed to survive. I don't know how. And Urban Meyer is bigger in his sport than he is than D'Antonio and Izzo in his sport. So if those two guys managed to survive, and the Michigan State stuff was way more heinous, was way more vile. So we'll see. I've been wrong before on these things. I've read these things completely wrong many a times. I thought that, oh yeah, this coach is done, and somehow he survives. But I think this is a little bit different. And again, don't forget, Ohio State's in trouble as we speak right now with all these lawsuits, with these issues going on. This is the last thing they wanted to deal with. The other big news item of the weekend, Yankees, Red Sox, 4-game series in Fenway. Yankees get swept. They come into this series on Thursday night, trailing 4.5 games in the standings for the division, and leave Boston 9.5 out. And this series was interesting because I think that barring anything catastrophic, and it is Boston, and they've blown a big lead before, so anything and everything is not out of the question. And we've seen this happen years and years on in baseball. Teams have big leads. The Mets collapsed twice. You know, the Angels and the Mariners in 95. I mean, we've seen this over and over again. So there's never a guarantee when you have a 9.5 games and all, you know, big leads in August like that. Nothing is ever guaranteed. But again, barring anything catastrophic, the Red Sox basically have stamped themselves as the AL East winner in 2018. Again, barring anything catastrophic, injuries, they just choke. They lose they lose basically 30 out of 31 games, something crazy like that. Barring anything catastrophic, I think the Red Sox have officially won the AL East. Oh, well, unofficially, I should say, won the AL East. They outclassed the Yankees this weekend. And they really beat the Yankees really in different ways. You know, they got out to the Yankees got out to a 4-0 lead in the first game of that series on Thursday night. And then inexplicably, Aaron Boone, who's proven every day that he's no Casey Stengel, Miller Huggins, no Joe Torre. Let's just put it that way. Aaron Boone inexplicably takes out CC Sabathia with 2 outs. 2 outs in the third inning or fourth inning? Was it the third inning or fourth inning? Fourth inning. You take one of your veterans, a guy who's pitched in big games, big time performances. And I know CC's has been up and down this year. He hasn't been great and he's old and, you know, he doesn't have a lot left to give as far as innings in big games. But to me, you got to leave CC in that game. 4-2 lead, 2 outs. You got to leave CC in the game there. But he takes him out. He brings in Holder and the game gets away from him. And the Red Sox go out there and basically punched the Yankees in the fucking mouth, deliver a right hand, and the Yankees never recover. Then Rick Porcello dominates them Friday night. Nathan Eovaldi dominates them on Saturday afternoon. And then last night, you would think, you know, Red Sox took 3 out of 4, fourth game. They could be a little flat. Sunday Night Baseball. You know, the Yankees get some runs there in the top of the 6th inning top of the 6th inning, I believe. Or was it the 7th? They score some runs there. Some gift runs at that. And you think, man, the Yankees are going to at least escape Boston. It's still not great, but they at least come away from Boston with 1 win and they could at least have some hope of not being totally embarrassed and swept. And then what happens? Chapman has a wild Chapman performance. Andujar, who we could take out of the Hall of Fame, makes another throwing error. And Red Sox tie it up. And then, of course, Benintendi wins it in the 10th. So it was a bad weekend all around for the Yankees. Bad weekend for the Yankees. And the Yankees haven't played well. Really, the Yankees haven't played well in about a month. And the Yankees went from having a historic season where the Red Sox and the Yankees, who was going to be the first to win the division, who was going to be the first to 108, 109, 110 wins. They went from having this historic, one-of-a-kind season, one-of-a-kind playoff race to being now in a dogfight for one of the 2 wildcard spots. Because now, I believe Oakland, the Yankees are in the lead for the first wild card, and they only have a 3.5 game lead on Oakland. They only have a 3.5 game lead on Oakland. Oakland's been phenomenal. I mean, Oakland's gone on one of those amazing runs that they tend to do. Oakland's so fucking weird. Like, Oakland will be bad for like 3 or 4 years, and then they come out of nowhere and have just one of these historic seasons and these historic runs where they just come out of nowhere and shock people. And that's what Oakland's doing this year again. They did it in 2012. They're doing it again this year. And Oakland's been phenomenal. I think they've won like 30 of the last 33 games, something crazy like that. They're 21 games over 500. You know, Oakland was a team that was kind of middling around 500, and they just gone on this incredible run, really, for the last 6 weeks or something like that. So it's incredible when you think back the run that Oakland's on and the run that the Yankees were on before they went into this slump. And to me, the Yankees now have put themselves in a very dicey situation. The Yankees were comfortably ahead in that first wild card spot. If nothing else, if at worst, if they lost the division to the Red Sox by a couple games, they at least had something to hang their hat on. Hey, they were going to win 100 plus games, and they were guaranteed guaranteed to host that wild card game in Yankee Stadium. Now, that's not so much of a guarantee. First and foremost, Oakland's coming. And I don't think Oakland's cooling off. Oakland's coming. Oakland's got karma going on. They've got they got the lucky charm going on. They got something going on in Oakland. Something in the water. Something in the sewage. Something in the sewage there at that fucking dump of a ballpark. But Oakland's coming. You can't count out Seattle. You can make the case that the Yankees might end out of the postseason if these struggles continue and if Oakland plays well and Seattle rights the ship a little bit. You can make the case that the Yankees might miss the playoffs. Now, I don't think they will. The Yankees have an easy schedule the rest of August and going into September. Outside of a series against the Red Sox, they have 6 more games against the Red Sox. Outside of that, they have an easy-ass schedule. They play the Mets for one game, a makeup game. They play the White Sox. They just basically have, they play the Orioles a couple more times. I mean, they basically got the dregs of the American League. So the Yankees are going to get fat off of bad competition. Now, that's not always a guarantee. We've seen teams, big time, great teams, collapse and lose to those said doldrum teams. We've seen it all before. So we know you can't always rely on the schedule. But the Yankees have an easy schedule. They still have a 3.5 game. I believe it's a 3.5 or 4 game lead in the standings for the first wild card over Oakland. So I still expect the Yankees to win. But I mean, if Seattle rights the ship a little bit and Oakland keeps playing the way that they're playing, the Yankees could conceivably miss the playoffs. And that would be amazing when you think about where this team was at just 6 weeks ago? Something like that. And even if they do make the playoffs, they could easily lose home field advantage, have to go to Oakland to play that game, or have to go to Seattle to play a wild card. Like, a lot of things are at play here. This is interesting. It's interesting. It's amazing. The American League kind of flipped because it became basically, it's a 3-team league now with the Yankees, the Red Sox, and the Astros, and the Indians kind of an honorable mention. But basically it became about 4 teams and they were all guaranteed to make the playoffs. Now with the emergence of Oakland, Seattle's still in the mix there. The American League has become a little bit more interesting. The Red Sox are going to win the division. I don't foresee anything catastrophic happening, so I think the Red Sox are going to win the division. The Astros, we know, are going to win the AL West. And the Indians are guaranteed to win the AL Central. So the division races are pretty much over. But the wild card race is going to be very, very interesting because now you've got 3 teams for 2 spots. A solid race. A legitimate, no doubt about it race. You've got 3 teams for 2 spots. Can the Yankees hold on? And I know everybody was all excited and hyped about the Zach Britton acquisition. And I like the acquisition for the Yankees. To me, I don't think you put yourself into the box where you have to acquire a starting pitcher if there's none available or if there's no guys available that help go out and strengthen that bullpen. I could see that logic, but I still don't love the Yankees rotation. The Yankees needed help in that rotation. J.A. Happ doesn't do it for me, and he's on the DL with hand, foot, mouth, coccyx disease. My daughter's had that. It's not fun, so I don't imagine. I know on an adult it can't be fun. But Happ is on a DL. He's going to miss only 1 start. He should be back this week. But even then, do you trust J.A. Happ? Is J.A. Happ going to win you a championship? And Severino, and I've always felt Severino was overrated. Severino's overrated to me. He's a good pitcher, but I'm not ready to put Severino up there with DeGrom, with Scherzer, with Verlander, with Kershaw, with the big time pitchers in the sport. I'm not ready to put him up there yet. Severino's been bad his last 4 starts. He hasn't pitched great. I think he's lost he was the front runner for the American League Cy Young. That conversation's over. So I don't trust Severino. Tanaka's up and down. You never know what you're going to get out of Tanaka. Tanaka could be great for 4 starts, be bad for 4 starts, be average for 4 starts, be then great for 4 starts, then be bad again for 4 starts. Like, Tanaka, you never know what the fuck you're going to get out of Tanaka. So I wouldn't trust Tanaka either. Sonny Gray's in the bullpen. You know it's bad when your rotation spot is lost to Lance Lynn. Lance Lynn now. Who's got like an 18 ERA. Lance Lynn. Lance Lynn now is supposed to be the savior? Good luck. So to me, the Yankees have some holes. They should have gotten another starting pitcher. They didn't. Now I get it. There wasn't a guy available there that was going to impact them to that, to the extent that they wanted, and that would have justified giving up some prospects, but still, they needed reinforcements in that rotation. And the problem with relying on the bullpen solely, or thinking that, hey, we don't need great starting pitching, we just have a dominant bullpen, that's all fine and dandy if everybody in that bullpen pitches up to their potential. That's all fine and dandy. But that the random times that relievers don't pitch up to their potential, when Chapman doesn't have it, or Britton doesn't have it, or Betances doesn't have it, or Robertson doesn't have it, you're dead. You're dead. Because if your relievers don't have it, and your rotation is shot and shitty to begin with, then you're dead. Now you've got a pitching staff that's in shambles. And the other interesting thing about the Yankees is there's a lot of pressure on the Yankees this year. This is an organization that fired Joe Girardi, one of the best managers in the sports. And I know Joe Girardi's not a lovable guy. I know that he's a little bit of a fucking square and, geeky, and he's tough to deal with sometimes, especially with the media. I get all that. Joe Girardi isn't exactly, lovable, but he was a hell of a manager. Hell of a manager. Had great success in New York. They fired Joe Girardi in large part, because of Gary Sanchez, and because they felt like he would be an issue with the young players. The Yankees were going younger. They had young superstars all over that club. And they didn't feel like Joe Girardi was the guy to manage a young team, those young guys. That was part of it. Now money, not paying him $400 million, $10 million that would have required to pay Joe Girardi. The fact that baseball's changed, that the big time managers kind of being phased out. These GMs who are more analytically driven than ever think that the manager's just this middleman, that they could pipe. See, these GMs are interesting. They think that they could put anybody in that role of manager. They could hire me to manage these teams. Hey, we give him a lineup. We tell him what to put out there every day. We give him the numbers. We give him everything that he needs. He just needs to talk to the media and basically massage egos in the clubhouse. And that's all fine and dandy until you get the big games in October, and then you've got a rookie, inexperienced manager who doesn't know what the fuck he's doing, and then you have a Matt Williams situation. So Girardi was shit canned for a couple reasons, and you bring in Aaron Boone, a guy who's inexperienced, who's never managed, never coached, has no coaching experience whatsoever, going from the broadcast booth to managing. You hand him a Ferrari and tell him, hey, don't crash it. Joe Girardi got within a game of going to the World Series. The Yankees could have easily won that series. Easily could have won that series in 6 games. There were a Todd Frazier fly ball in game 6 in the top of the 7th inning. If that Frazier fly ball is maybe a couple inches up, it's a home run, a 3-run home run. Yankees win that game. They go on to the World Series. And who knows? So the Yankees were within an eyelash of getting to a World Series. They fire their manager. They bring in an inexperienced manager to take over, give them this superstar-laden team with young players galore. There's pressure on Aaron Boone, and there's pressure on Brian Cashman. See, Aaron Boone, to justify that move, Aaron Boone has to get to a World Series. And I said this in the offseason when the move was made. To justify this move, Aaron Boone, at the very least, has to get to a World Series. They have to get to a World Series. They got within a game of it last year. You can make the case that their team is better this year. They got Torres, they got Andahar, Stanton. You added the NL MVP to this team. A team that almost got to a World Series. You added the NL MVP and 2 guys who are 1 and 2 in the Rookie of the Year race. The team is arguably better. Severino's better. The team is better. And there's a potential that they may not even make the playoffs. That's a lot of pressure for a rookie manager. A lot of pressure. It's bad enough that you're a rookie manager in New York managing the Yankees. And you replaced a hell of a manager in Joe Girardi. So the Yankees situation is very, very interesting. Very, very interesting. They went from having a historic season, running away with that, at the very least, being in contention to win that division or being in a dogfight with the Red Sox, to now being firmly entrenched in a wild card and having a dogfight for the fucking wild card. It's interesting how this shit has turned in 6 weeks. The Red Sox right now are clearly the better team, and they're the best team in the American League right now as we speak. And I don't think the Red Sox are this perfect team, because I think the Red Sox have holes. I've discussed it on the show last week. I've discussed it in weeks prior. I think the Red Sox have a huge hole in that bullpen. It's interesting. The two teams are opposites of each other. The Yankees have the great bullpen. The Red Sox have that great starting rotation. The Yankees rotation is terrible. The Red Sox bullpen, it's not terrible, but it's unproven. And I don't trust Kimbrel. I never have. I never will. I've seen Kimbrel blow big games after big games. And I know he puts up gaudy stats. And statistically every year he's tops in saves or one of the leaders in saves. And he puts up big numbers. But I just don't trust Craig Kimbrel. In 2011, when the Braves were collapsing and blew a wild card to the Cardinals, Kimbrel was nowhere to be found. He blew big games after big games to bad teams that season. In 2012 against the Dodgers in the postseason, it was not great. Last year in Game 4, he blew that game, and the Red Sox really needed that win. So I'm not a huge Craig Kimbrel fan. You got to prove to me that Craig Kimbrel in a championship situation can get a big save. And until then, to me, he's going to be a question mark. So the Red Sox will have their moment to prove to everybody that they're ready for prime time. But at this moment, if you were drawing up a favorite, I think you have to go with the Red Sox as the favorite. And I know the Astros are still there and they should still get the respect. They are the defending World Series champions. They got to get healthy. And maybe if they get something great out of Ozuna, they'll be back in the conversation. And speaking of Ozuna, look, I can't stand phony outrage. Like, that's one of the things that really annoys me in sports is writers and media people with their phony outrage. People are outraged that the Astros took a chance with Roberto Ozuna. First of all, the Astros are no different than any other organization. And look, they can sit there and preach all they want about how they have a zero tolerance policy and that they don't stand for this. They don't stand for that. They don't stand for all this shit. They could say that all they want. But you know how many times I've seen organizations say, oh, well, if it was my team, we wouldn't stand for that, or our organization wouldn't stand for that. The Astros are no different than any other organization. They want to win. They want to win. And in order to win, they'll get in bed with anybody that they have to. They don't care. Roberto Ozuna could have murdered 15 people. If he's acquitted and he helps them win a World Series, guess what? They'll welcome him with open arms. See, that's the problem when you get on these moral high grounds as an organization, really in any walk of life, but in sports, when you get into these moral high ground situations as an organization, when you sit there and you preach about how, our organization doesn't stand for this and we don't do this and we don't do that. See, that's the problem. When you get on those moral high grounds and you don't abide by them and you don't stand and you don't live by those words, you're going to get killed. You're going to get killed. You're going to come off like a phony and a hypocrite. And these media people, outraged and, this is ridiculous and you can't let them pitch and blah, 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 blah. These are the same people that praise Aroldis Chapman every single time he comes out there and gets a big save. These are the same media folks that praise Aroldis Chapman when he pitched 3 innings against the Indians to save the Cubs in Game 5 of the 2016 World Series. I didn't hear anybody, blow a gasket. Oh, how is this guy pitching? He beat up his girlfriend, gunshots, blah, blah. I didn't hear anybody preach that. Look, we're all phony. We're all phony when it comes to this stuff. I've come on this show and talk shit about guys getting in trouble, blah, 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 but I'm a phony too. Because if guys can help my team win, guess what? In 2016, when David Wright went down again and the Mets needed another infielder, I was banging the drum for the Mets to sign Jose Reyes, even with the domestic violence situation. So I'm a phony too. But I don't go out there and get on these moral high grounds about, you shouldn't go. I know what it is. I know what it is. And these organizations need to do the same thing. They can say whatever they want to say without being in the moment. See, it's funny. These organizations are going to say anything they want to say about this situation and that situation and how this organization won't stand for this and this organization won't stand for that. That's easy to say when you're not involved in it. That's easy to say when you're removed from the situation. Anybody can say anything. So I don't understand the Ozuna controversy. I really don't. I mean, the Astros are trying to win a World Series. At the end of the day, they're trying to win a World Series. And I'm sure the Astros, if they had their druthers, they would have preferred to not even touch the whole Ozuna thing. I think they probably would have, if the price wasn't so much, I think they would have preferred to get maybe a Brad Hand. I don't think. I know they would have preferred to get a Brad Hand or a Kyle Barraclaw or whoever. I don't think they wanted to touch this, but I think the Astros were caught between a rock and a hard place. And this idea that, they didn't need to go out and get a reliever. They proved last year that they could win a World Series without a reliever, a big time closer in the bullpen. That doesn't work 2 years in a row. The Astros got lucky last year. Let's be real. There's no guarantee that they were going to have that same luck again. And they knew that. They knew that. They were caught between a rock and a hard place. We're trying to win. And, hey, it's funny how quick morals go out the window when winning's at stake. It's amazing. It is amazing. Moving on. Look, I have nothing to say about T.O. skipping the Hall of Fame. I mean, what can you say? Really? Well, I mean, what can you say? Like I said this a couple months back when the whole announcement was made that T.O. was going to skip the Hall of Fame. Is anybody surprised? Is anybody surprised? It's T.O. Why is anybody surprised? He made this about himself. This whole weekend was about him and how he feels slighted and he's heartbroken and devastated and upset. How dare the Hall of Fame? And look, we all know he was a first ballot Hall of Famer. There's not a football fan, a real knowledgeable football fan with any sort of a brain that watched T.O. for 5 minutes that will say T.O.'s not a first ballot Hall of Famer. We all know he's a first ballot Hall of Famer. We all know that. And T.O. thinks he's the only guy that's gotten switched. Jerry Kramer waited, 40 years to get into the Hall of Fame? Jerry Kramer, one of the greatest guards in the history of the NFL. But T.O. somehow feels slighted. You know how many guys have waited 10? And I'm not saying that the system is perfect. Look, all these Hall of Fames got issues. All of these Hall of Fames got issues. We're not even going to get into the Baseball Hall of Fame. The NFL, we already know the NFL Hall of Fame is the system is not great. It's not ideal. It's very political. All Hall of Fames have their issues. The NBA Hall of Fame has its issues. They put everybody in. If you play in the NBA for 5 minutes, they'll put you in. So all these Hall of Fames have issues. All these Hall of Fames have issues. But T.O., I mean, he's a clown. He's a clown. He's a clown. And Ray Lewis. I gotta watch Ray Lewis preach a sermon at the Hall of Fame. Really, Ray? This is what we're gonna do at the Hall of Fame? First of all, he has the longest speech, a 35-minute speech almost. Up there sweating, cooning, as only Ray Lewis can do. And look, I know it's a great achievement, and no one's ever going to take away the greatness of Ray Lewis, but I just can't take Ray Lewis seriously. First of all, Ray, one of the things that I wanted to hear in your Hall of Fame speech is, where's the white suit? The blood-stained white suit that they never found. At the scene of the 2 dead bodies that allegedly were at your hands, at your crew's hands. I wanted to know where the whereabouts of that suit were. He didn't touch on that. And again, I can't take Ray Lewis serious with the preaching and the sermonizing and God this and God that when you got 6 different kids with 4 different women. And look, I'm not trying to be here holier than thou, because I'm not. Lord knows I'm not. But it's hard for me to take guys seriously when they're preaching and talking about God and Bible scriptures and this, that, and the other. And you got 6 kids with 4 different women. I'm sorry. That just is, I can't do it. I can't, you lose me. You lose me. You lose me. So that was my quick synopsis of the Hall of Fame this weekend. I didn't really watch it. I kind of caught most of the speeches, kind of, the abbreviated version of the speeches. I saw Jerry Kramer's speech. I didn't even watch T.O.'s. T.O.'s was just, I wasn't going to even take time out of my day to watch that bullshit. I saw Ray Lewis's. Well, I didn't see all of it. I kind of skimmed through because I wasn't going to sit there and watch him coon for 35 minutes. I saw Randy Moss's speech. It was a great speech. And then I kind of saw highlights of all the other ones. I mean, the Hall of Fame is what it is. And now this rumor that the Hall of Fame are going to make guys show up to the Hall, make inductees show up. Look, this is what I will tell Canton and the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Don't be reactionary. Don't be reactionary. Look, T.O. is T.O. Don't change your situation because of T.O. T.O. is a unique situation. He's selfish. He's all about himself. T.O. was going to do this because he does this stuff for attention. He wants attention. He can't play anymore. He's dying for attention. So he did this and also because he's mad because poor T.O. had to wait 2 years to get into the Hall of Fame. Undeservedly, admittedly, but still. But don't go out there and change your situation and change your policies and your rules to react to T.O. Don't do that. Why? T.O.'s a unique situation. I don't think many guys are going to do this. I really don't. So, yeah, that's my thought. That's my thoughts on the Hall of Fame. And then lastly, Donald Trump and LeBron. Donald Trump tweeting on Friday night, basically calling LeBron stupid. Look, you guys know I'm not the biggest LeBron fan, but I'm even less of a fan of our president. Our president's a clown. Let's be real. Let's be serious. Let's call it like it is. Our president's a fucking clown. He's a clown. He's a clown. Like, I have nothing else to really say on this situation because everybody knows he's a jackass. I mean, to sit there and call LeBron James stupid. The guy is going out there doing great things for his community. Look, I don't love him as a basketball player. I have problems with some of the things he does on the court, but I mean, there's nothing that you could ever argue about LeBron off the court. The guy stays out of trouble. He does good things for his community. And then to call the guy stupid. I mean, that's just Donald Trump being Donald Trump. He took time out of his busy schedule, being president, commander in chief, or should I say traitor in chief. He took time out of his busy schedule of actually running the country into the fucking ground to tweet about LeBron James. Here's a little bit of advice for our commander in chief, for Agent Orange. How about instead of worrying about Colin Kaepernick and players kneeling and LeBron and other athletes, basically, instead of just worrying about anything going on in sports, how about Donald Trump finally admit that he colluded with Russia to win an election, show some guts, show some character for once in your life, and admit that you colluded with Russia, that you're Russia's bitch, that you're Putin's bitch, that you owe Russian banks billions and billions of dollars, because that's the only people that will give you money at this point, because you've basically been bankrupt so many times in the States that none of the banks here will give you money, so you went to Russia to get money. Hell, and even if you don't even do that, Donald Trump, how about you lie to me, pretend that you're actually trying to, make sure that our elections aren't rigged again and aren't fucked with again. Do that. Lie to me. Do what every other politician does, or most politicians do. Lie to me. Pretend like you actually give a fuck about Russia and the Russia scandal and that, avoiding another hack. Instead of worrying about what Colin Kaepernick does, or what Eric Reed does, or any other NFL player does, or what LeBron James does. How about that? He's a clown. He's a clown. He's a clown. Why is anybody outraged? Why is anybody surprised? He does this. And he does this to deflect attention, to divide us, to deflect from the real issues that are going on in our country. There's still kids at the border that are still separated from their families. Flint, Michigan still doesn't have drinkable water. But hey, I got time to tweet about LeBron and Colin Kaepernick and any other issue that just comes to my fucking head. Every member of your administration at one point or another has been indicted in this Russia situation. But hey, let's not talk about that. He basically admitted to colluding. I don't know how many times he's obstructed justice, but hey, no, none of that is important. LeBron James doing an interview with Don Lemon, another black guy that I don't like. That's more important. That deserves my time. Unbelievable. I mean, there's just really nothing to say. There's really nothing to say. Like, there's just literally nothing to say. Unbelievable. Donald Trump. Tomorrow's election day, folks. Go out and vote. A lot of primaries are up tomorrow. Go out and vote. Please go out and vote. Please go vote. That's all I can say. If you want this national nightmare to be over in 2020, please go vote. Tomorrow, in November, and of course in 2020, please go vote. So we can hopefully get this jackass out of office.
Brothers and sisters! Brothers and sisters! I don't know what this world is coming to.
Fouls of the week. And the fouls of the week this week is actually not a foul, but it's actually a shout out. For only the second time in the almost 2-year history of our podcast, I have been able to give a shout out and not a foul. And you guys know that I love flaming people at the end of our show each week, but I cannot do it this week. Although there were some candidates, mainly Kelvin Benjamin. But I figured that this guy deserved more of a shout out than dumbass Kelvin Benjamin and his stupid ass comments about Cam Newton. So yeah, a shout out of the week goes to Randy Moss, who, aside from also being inducted into Hall of Fame this week, if you guys didn't know, he wore a tie to the ceremony with the names of, I don't want to say all the shooting victims, but a lot of the famous shooting victims, in the last few years of police violence. So everyone from Tamir Rice to Philando Castile, Trayvon Martin, Sandra Bland, Freddie Gray, Eric Garner, etc. The list goes on and on, unfortunately. And he had all those names on that list and on that tie. And I thought that was just the coolest shit ever. I thought it was very, very dope. And you guys know, if you guys know me, you know that I'm a huge Randy Moss fan. I've always been a huge Randy Moss fan. I grew up on Randy Moss. He was one of my favorite players in the NFL. One of my favorite players of all time. And I know this is controversial. I know some people agree with me. I know some people disagree with me. I've had this discussion ever since high school, in the schoolyard, talking shit. At their peaks. And again, I preface this, I never saw Jerry Rice in his prime. I only saw him in his later career with the 49ers and then, of course, at Oakland. So I always feel like it's a little unfair for me to say this because I never saw the great Jerry Rice in the 80s with the 49ers. Of course, I saw highlights of him and I saw I watched NFL films. I watched the Super Bowl films, and the highlights of the 49ers winning in that decade. Of course. So I know the greatness of Jerry Rice and I know the numbers he put up, but at their peaks, from an overall physical talent, I thought Randy Moss was probably the greatest wide receiver the NFL's ever seen. As far as sheer physical ability, to me, there was no one greater than Randy Moss. And I know Randy Moss had his issues and I know he was temperamental and moody and his 2.5 years in Oakland were not great. But man, he was a hell of a receiver, a hell of a wide receiver, an amazing player, just an amazing player. So, shout out to Randy Moss, man. That was a very, very dope gesture. You would think that, at that day, his biggest day of his career, it would be all about himself. But, he took time to, recognize and keep the memories of those individuals, going. And I think that's a cool thing. And it's an issue that we're still facing in our society. It's still going on each day. Each day, it seems like there's another African American kid, man, woman being murdered by the police, unfortunately. So it's important to keep those people in our memories and in the social conversation. And, I haven't had a chance to watch the Trayvon Martin documentary. I've heard good things about it. It's DVRing. So I'm just, I'm going to make my way to watch that here shortly, hopefully. But yeah, man, that's it for me this week. I got to get up out of here. As always, thank you for listening. Thank you for subscribing to the podcast. Without you guys, there is no show. There is no podcast. So from the bottom of my heart, I really, really appreciate every single person that listens each week. As always, you can find this show on iTunes, SoundCloud, Stitcher, Google Play, TuneIn Radio, anywhere where you can find free podcasts. We are there. Follow us on Twitter at the TF Podcast 1, on Instagram, the TF Podcast, on Facebook, the Technical File Podcast. Also become a member of our fan group, TFP Nation. Yeah, man, that's basically it. Follow me on Instagram at DManuelBrown, on Twitter at DManuelBrown, and on Snapchat, MannyBro15. So yeah, I am out of here. I got the new season of Better Call Saul coming out tonight. I am excited about that. That is the best show on TV. Without a doubt. Don't at me. Don't debate me. Better Call Saul season 4 comes out tonight. So I got shit to do. So yeah. But anyways, man, I hope you guys have a happy, safe, blessed rest of your week, man. We'll catch y'all next week on the podcast. I am your host, Manny Fresh, and I am out. Peace.